Welcome to the Dropping Gems con Muchos Colores podcast. I am your host, Arely Lagunas. This is an audio community where we own and share our stories as trailblazer moms, crafting a unique and meaningful work lifestyle, leading with passion, breaking barriers, and chasing bold dreams on our own terms. Celebrating our Latina motherhood voices to bring you genuine insights of the highs, the lows, and in-betweens of working moms from a first-gen Latina lens. We don't have to travel this journey alone. Let's get started. Today we are very excited to have a special guest with us. Her name is Noeli Serna, and she is a corporate attorney and the founder of Serna Legal Services. Her law firm provides long-term contract and corporate legal services to establish Illinois businesses looking to scale further. Noeli helps her clients mitigate the legal risks that come with business growth, including larger and more specialized contracts and transactions. Noeli speaks Spanish, so she is proudly representing the Latine community. Noeli also speaks Spanish, so she proudly represents the Latine business community in their native Spanish language. Noeli, it's a pleasure to have you today as our guest. I can't wait to chat with you today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat too.
Thank you. And along those lines, and diving right into the conversation, can you please share your journey of becoming an attorney?
Yeah, and I'm happy to. So I am the proud daughter of Mexican immigrants. So my story kind of goes back to when I was 5 years old and my parents started a restaurant. So they opened a fast food restaurant in the south suburbs of Illinois, Andy's Grill in South Holland, in case anyone wants to ever check it out. It's still there to this day, but I grew up in that environment, kind of an entrepreneurial family. And my first exposure to an attorney was at the family restaurant. So eventually my parents needed a lawyer to help them set up a legal entity, to take care of some legal aspects of the business. And for me, that was the first introduction of what an attorney was. It was somebody that was helping my parents with the business. So I didn't know what it really meant as a kid, like, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer. I say that as a kid, everybody has that idea, but you don't really know what it means, right? So I had that kind of seed planted in my head at a young age, but then I went to college, went to eventually law school, without a lot of understanding of what it would mean, right? What that career could look like. I think especially in the Latine community, lawyers, very commonly we see it in immigration matters, right? Especially myself as daughter of immigrants and a lot of immigrant family members, we would see a lot of immigration attorneys. So it was a lot of trial and error, just trying to figure out what it meant to be a lawyer, what kind of areas of law I could practice. And I was very fortunate that I had some opportunities to do internships and try out different areas of law. I tried out litigation, the courtroom, and realized it wasn't really for me. I didn't like the adversarial aspect of it. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I stuck with what I thought I wanted to do, and that was doing corporate law and helping represent businesses. I started practicing in these big law firms doing banking law. Then I kind of transitioned to go to a company and worked as their in-house attorney. And now here I am, having started my own corporate law firm about 1.5 years ago now, proudly representing business owners in Illinois.
Something very interesting about your story is that you were exposed early on in your young years, the need to work with attorneys, right, to help them out with their business. And right. By the way, we will need to check out Andy's Grill. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Please do.
Yeah. But I think that's the story of a lot of us, where we help our parents learn something that may be new to them. And it's really nice that also at a young age, there was that seed planted, right? And the last part that I like about your story that you share is that you had that curiosity and you wanted to keep learning, like, what did you want to do? And also, what didn't you want to do? Because I think they're both equally important. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really glad that you mentioned the internships, because I think that's something very valuable, especially for those that are kind of exploring what they want to do. I had an internship and I loved it. And I think that opens up a lot of a lot of opportunities, and also it opens your mind to know what you want to do in the future. So for you, going through these different experiences, it made you realize, this is what I want to do. You might be in transition, and then finally launching your own attorney firm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah, I love the point you said of it's just as valuable to know what you don't want to do and to kind of discredit that and learn that about yourself. So yes, completely agree.
Yes. Something that we should be really proud of, and I think a lot of times as a Latino community, I think we have to encourage a little bit more to celebrate not just big wins, but also small wins. And I just want to say how happy I am to have you in this podcast, because I know that Latinas account for less than 2% of American lawyers.
Yes.
That's a big accomplishment, and I would like to continue to see representation of Latinas. And what a way to showcase that you're able to do it, and also be an example for others and say, Noeli can do it. Why can't I do it too, right? So you're a
Yeah.
motivation to a lot of our audience.
Oh, thank you. And yeah, it's such an important statistic. I'm so glad that you mentioned it too, because it just, I mean, just hearing that number and it's less than 2%, it always just, yeah, it makes me cringe a little bit, but I agree. I think it's setting the example and hopefully encouraging other aspiring Latina attorneys to take that path as well.
You mentioned that you've been in business for Serna Legal Services for a year and a half now. And also, I recently learned that you became a mom for the first time. Can you share a little bit about what that journey looks like for you right now?
Oh my gosh. It's the best. And it's also the most challenging thing I've ever done. Like, forget being a lawyer. This is this is something else, but in the best way. But yes, I am the proud mom of a 5.5-month-old named Adrian. He is perfect, healthy. He is, knock on wood, sleeping through the night. He's just like everything I could have ever hoped for. We are so lucky, my husband and I, to have him as part of our lives now. But huge. I mean, I don't have to tell you, Areli, or your listeners, but a 180, right, of what our life was before and now with him. Yeah, and especially now trying to balance being a mom and also being a lawyer, and then being a business owner on top of it. I'm learning every day, honestly. Like every phase is different. Every month that he's growing, something new is happening. So have learned, as a type A, kind of very rigid, structured person, have had to learn how to be flexible, how to embrace unpredictability, because that's all it is right now. It's just one unpredictable moment after another. But I mean, the joy that it's brought us and the happiness and every little laugh and smile, I mean, I'm over the moon with it. So yeah, it's been fun. Yeah.
Yes, congratulations on
Thank
your
you.
baby boy. And I am so happy to hear that he's sleeping through the
I
night.
know. I just jinxed myself. I know I did. He's gonna wake up like 5 times today.
That's such a huge milestone, and it
Yeah.
doesn't happen on every child. So
No.
definitely a plus for that.
Yeah.
And yes, and thank you for sharing that journey of that transition, because you are correct. It's like 180 degree change, and I think as a community, it's also important to talk about some of those things that happen during that transition, right? Like you
Yeah.
said, it's a lot of joy, but there is a big adaptability that you have to do. And I would say, as a mom, one of the things that my kids have taught me is to be very patient.
Yes. Yes.
And I know that parenthood often comes with unexpected challenges, like you said, right? That unpredictability. What were some of the surprises that you encountered as a mom, and how did you handle them?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, where do I start? No, honestly, I think one of the biggest ones was the guilt. So as a working mom, especially, I'm lucky that I have flexibility because I have my own business, so I get to choose how I allocate my time. But with being the sole owner of my business and the sole attorney, that means the business also depends on me, right, to keep going. So I was fortunate. I devoted 1 full month of true maternity leave, had a backup attorney that helped me with my active clients. So I'm happy how I set that up initially. But then we had to make the transition back, right? And get right back into things. And with that was the question of childcare, because my husband, of course, had to get back to work after his paternity leave too. So we had that big decision to make of daycare versus nanny. And I know how like lucky we are with the resources we do have to even be able to make those choices for our family. But we started with the daycare route to start. And only good things to say about the daycare, but I think I was so surprised at how hard it was for me to drop him off and then just know that he was like laying on the floor on a boppy pillow or crying and didn't have somebody's 100% attention. And I would go and pick him up at like 3:30 every day, which was it was going to become unsustainable for me and running my business and also taking care of him when I brought him back home. So I was surprised at how guilty I felt about feeling like I wasn't giving my son the full care that he deserved and needed, while I was trying to continue building on my business as well. So yeah, I was a little surprised at how that made me feel. And but I took that experience and had a really heart to heart conversation with my husband of, I don't think this is the right path for me right now as a mom. And then we talked about the nanny option, which is the path that we took after a month and a half of daycare, because he was also getting sick all the time, and he like ended up at the ER one day with a tummy bug. Like it was just too many things. So we're very fortunate now that we did find a nanny that has done just a phenomenal job, and we're so happy. And I feel like I'm doing right by him and doing right by the business. I feel healthier and emotionally more stable because of it. But there was guilt associated with the nanny part too, because we're brought up believing, especially in our culture and seeing it. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until we had the restaurant. We were at the restaurant as a family all the time, but it was that idea of our family is who takes care of their own kids, right? Like we don't bring in other help to do that. It stays within the family. So there was that kind of guilt associated with having to delegate and get help from outside of my immediate family. So it's a roller coaster, honestly, but I'm feeling much more at peace with the choices we're making there.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. A big concern for a lot of the mothers that are also working outside of home. And
very lucky with family on both sides, my husband and my own. Yeah, couldn't ask for better support systems, truly. Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that emotion, because I think a lot of us can relate to that. And you brought up a great point about in our communities, we're used to seeing more of the family taking care of the kids, and so you do have that guilt feeling coming from that. So
yeah,
I think that's important to talk about it and have awareness, because I'm sure there's other moms that felt that way as well.
yeah, absolutely.
What are some of the strategies that are working for you right now, as far as finding that work-life integration? I know it may look different every day.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like the golden question we ask here in the podcast, because we know that there are days where we feel like we are that power mom, and there are some days where we feel like we just, we need to work with what we can. So what are some strategies that are working for you?
Yeah. Delegation. I think that's the one thing that I've tried to do more of, both on the personal home front and then also in the business front. So before being a mom in the business, I was very hesitant to, get help. And whether that was a paralegal or maybe other attorney help, others that could help me, take on some of the work, right? Because I take a lot of pride in the quality of the work that we do, and I want to make sure everything's done perfect and my clients are getting the best experience. So it's hard to kind of give up some of that control, right? And trust others with doing things the way that you want them to. But I think becoming a mom has really helped me shift, because now I need that. I need somebody else to help. So it kind of propelled me to look for that. So I have brought on a couple of paralegals and other admins and people that have been helping me on the business front, so that I do have a little bit more time to really, when I'm spending time with Adrian on, before and after work, it is just Adrian, and I'm 100% focused on him. And that goes for on the personal front, something as simple as cleaning. Like, same thing, like when I clean my house, man, I want to go deep, right? I just want to get everything perfect and spotless, because it's just how I grew up and my personality. But it takes time, and weekends are so precious now, and I just want to spend it with them and go do things. So, getting help with the cleaning and getting somebody that helps us every 2 weeks to really deep clean in a way that maybe I just don't have the time to do
Yeah.
as well. But just little choices like that, right? And finding places where somebody can give me back a little bit more of my time, so I can really focus on what really matters to me right now too.
Well, those are great strategies. I'm also learning as well. And, I'm glad you brought up the cleaning part, because that's something that it took me a while to realize that. Well, actually, it took me a while to take action. I
Yeah.
knew I needed help. I
Yeah.
just never took action. So, yeah, so for the last 4 months, I've been getting help with cleaning. And to your point, by allowing or delegating that to someone that um, is good at it, and that's part of their service, right?
Yeah.
Um, I'm getting time with my kids, right? Because
Yep.
weekends are busy, and I want to spend that time having quality time with them, because
Hmm.
during the week we're already doing all this work, right?
Yes.
So realizing that action of getting help from a cleaning perspective is giving me quality time with my kids and family, but also it made me realize that I can delegate, and I can, let go of those things that are not really, I mean, I don't personally love cleaning,
Yeah.
but
Who does? Who does? Yeah.
right. So yeah, I'm really glad you share that, because it's really important. And I think in certainly in my experience, it's not very common to get help for cleaning, right? It's like I always saw my mom doing it, and I
Hmm.
never had that experience of someone else coming in and helping. So it was
Same.
also that
Yeah.
shift of it's okay, and not feeling guilty about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And think about it too, that we're providing for somebody else's, livelihood too, right? That's
Yes,
their livelihood, their job, and thinking about it in terms of giving to somebody else as well. I think it's
exactly.
good. Yeah.
Exactly. And along those lines, talking about that cultural aspect, how has your cultural background influenced your parenting style and the values that you want to instill in Adrian and perhaps future children?
Yeah. So in terms of parenting style, I mean, I feel like I haven't done too much parenting yet, right? Because he's so little, but what I've come to realize is how precious and how important family time is, and like family unity, and making sure that we're doing things together. And especially now with like phones and all the things that are distracting us all the time, like I remember, even something so simple as we would have dinner every day together, whether it was at the restaurant because we were all working, but we'd somehow come together to have some time, no matter how busy we were. And I want to make sure I instill that in Adrian and with my husband too, that is important to us, that family time together is something that we carry forward through the years. So I would say that, and maybe it's more my family and how they were. I don't know if it's cultural, but just the family unity aspect, I think, is really important, and something I want to make sure we do as a family as well.
Yes, yes. And I think as Latinos, that's one of our core values, right?
Yeah.
Unity of family and quality time. So
Yeah.
very important value. As a new mom, I'm sure you have experienced a lot of emotions. We have an expected mom. What
Mm.
resources or support systems have you found helpful? that would help someone who is new to motherhood?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. So first and foremost, and you hear this everywhere, you read it everywhere, but it's the whole concept of not being afraid to ask for help. I
Mhm.
mean, I wish I had been told that, but I wish I can go back and not just tell myself that, but like see my future and be like, listen to them and actually ask for help, and don't ignore that. Don't feel like you have to do everything yourself, right?
Mhm.
There's no, like, you're not losing any kind of pride or dignity in asking for somebody to step in and give you a moment, right? Because it is extremely hard being a first time mom, a newborn. It can be very challenging, and every baby is different. Some are easier and harder than others. But there's no shame in asking for that help and for acknowledging how hard it can be, right? I think some first time moms fear that they can't express how difficult that situation can be and how draining and emotionally, physically tough it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
But I hope that if anybody's listening to this, that they don't feel like they're less than because they're feeling that way themselves.
Mhm.
Um, I also will say, to the extent people have the resources and the means, something else I did, and I would do it all over again. We chose to do a night nurse for like 3 nights a week for the first 2 months of my son's life. And a night nurse would come in, let's say 9 p.m. and leave at 6 a.m. And she would be there with him, taking care of him overnight so that my husband and I could get like full night's sleep for those couple nights a week. I don't think I would have recovered as quickly as I did
Mhm.
if I had not sought out that resource. And again, we're so lucky to be able to have those resources and to afford them, right, to some degree. Um, but it was a sacrifice too, and we were wondering if it was going to be worth that, making that investment. But for me, at least, it was a way to recover, reintegrate into my job and work faster. And luckily, I'm so grateful it didn't suffer from postpartum depression or anxiety, because I do think that sleep, I mean, and your body needs it, right? And that recovery time is so critical. But if you don't have the means to do something like that, finding family that can help you, somebody that can be there to help you get that sleep that you may need, I think is really important as well.
It is very important to get your sleep. And what I love about this is that you were being proactive, you were planning because you knew what you wanted to do or how you wanted your recovery to look like. And that is being very proactive, right? Looking at your options and what options are available to you and deciding on those options. I really love how, for me, that's like a form of self-care, right?
Mm,
Making sure that you're getting your sleep, that your husband's getting his sleep, because at the end of the day, we have to fill our cups, right? So that
mm-hmm.
we can be at our 100% for our children, and specifically for your son who is a newborn and does need
Yeah.
a lot from you and dad, right?
Yep.
So I love how I see it more as a self-care act that you did in order
Yeah.
for you to get back to what you wanted to do, which is transition back to work. and
Exactly.
and actually the sleeping is, I can share my personal experience. I was sleep deprived
Mm.
when I had my my second and third child, because they were born the same year.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
So I say this as a joke, like it felt like I didn't sleep for 18 months straight just because my kids were back to back.
Yeah.
But it was probably less than that, but that's just how I felt. I felt
I
like I couldn't sleep for 18 months, a straight night, right?
yeah.
And in retrospect, I would do things differently to make sure that I did get my good sleep.
Yeah.
But it was affecting it when I decided, or when I realized that I couldn't keep going that way. Um, and I needed to make changes. It was because it was already affecting my health, and I didn't realize how important sleeping adequately would be so impactful to your health. And ever since that moment when I realized, this is affecting my health, I'm sorry, I prioritize my sleep. Even now that my kids are not small,
Hmm.
I
Yep.
still prioritize my sleep because I know that it could go south if you don't get, that adequate sleep.
Absolutely. It impacts every aspect of your life and your physical state.
Yes,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yes, yes. Going back to the beginning of how you shared that seed that inspired you to look into becoming an attorney, what advice do you have for aspiring Latina moms who are pursuing a career in law, or not
Mm.
necessarily moms, but any aspiring Latina who is considering this career? And of course, it's going to bump up our representation. What
Yeah.
advice do you have for them navigating this space?
Yeah, ask questions. Like do not be afraid to put yourself out there. I mean, honestly, if you're interested, talk to me. Like find a way to reach out to people that are living it, right? And everybody I have found, if you reach out to somebody, especially in our industry and in the legal industry, interested in learning more about them, people love to talk about themselves. It's a human nature, I think. So people are always really happy to share their stories and to provide some insight on their path, so that the more options and the more scenarios you see as somebody that's aspiring to do something, in this case maybe a legal career, the better prepared you will be to make the decisions and the choices that will get you even further, like, and sooner. And it's amazing in this industry and so many others how relationship driven it all can be as well. You know, somebody, inevitably that person is going to lead you to somebody else, and you never know who you're going to meet through someone, what you're going to learn. It can, at one conversation can change your whole trajectory of your career in life. So I say put yourself out there, find people to talk to about it, ask questions. Don't be shy. Now's not the time to be shy. It's the time to put yourself out there and learn more if you can.
Yes, simple but effective. I agree. Asking questions is very important.
Mhm.
And it's something I encourage my kids to do because unfortunately, I didn't do a lot of questions when I was younger.
Yeah.
But now I ask too many questions sometimes. What do you enjoy the most about your profession?
Oh, great question. What I currently, I think, really enjoy, especially about my profession as a business owner, is that I get to choose the clients that I get to work with. And surprisingly, not surprisingly, probably, is that ultimately I tend to work with clients that remind me of my own family's experience of the need that they needed. It's so rewarding to feel like I can give to a business owner, to somebody, in a way that my parents needed at some point too. So to me, that is a really rewarding aspect, the human element of it, and really getting to know my clients on a more personal level, because ultimately that just helps me guide them better on a business perspective too. So that I really enjoy that. It's very fulfilling to me, and it really fills me up to be able to have real conversations with people and know that I'm there to help them. And then helping them in their business just means I'm helping them in their life, right? And to me, that's a very rewarding piece of the work I do.
Quite honestly, the work and the service that you provide is very much needed in Latino communities. So I think having someone like you with those work ethics and with the experience that you had is very, it's a valuable asset to have as a partner. And a lot of the Latinos community yearn for that type of service. So
Yeah,
thank you
thank you.
for that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
What do you enjoy the most about motherhood currently? Because I'm sure that that will change
Yeah.
as your baby goes through different stages.
What do I enjoy currently? Watching him have new experiences, I think. I think it's so fun. Like, for example, we started swim class, right? So he's taking little baby swim classes and seeing him learn something new. And the silliest thing, like, he graduated to the next level last week. So it's just like, I feel so proud, and my husband and I are like high-fiving each other over a baby swim class. Like we had anything to do with it. But I think it's that. It's just like seeing all these little changes and seeing how he's so quickly just becoming a little person, right? With his
Yeah.
own personality. It's so fun to watch it right now. Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool how he's already a very avid swimmer and
Oh my gosh. He swims after little toy balls. That's the only motivator out on that swimming pool. He wants the
yes,
toys.
yes. I'm
Yeah.
sure he's loving the water.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I want to thank you for the work that you're doing, for your specialty, and for the contribution that you're bringing to the community. As mentioned earlier, it's very much needed. And I'm sure that a lot of our audience will benefit from hearing your story and your voice and learning more about your services. So, would you mind sharing? I know I mentioned what you do, but we want to hear it from you. What type of businesses you can support, and if you want to share your website or Instagram handle, and also please feel free to share Andy's Grill because we all want to try it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that opportunity. So, yeah, in few words, I am a corporate attorney. So I'm working with businesses and entrepreneurs that are ready to set up a legal entity and start up their business. And I also work with business owners that have been in business for several years and are scaling and want to do that in a legally protected way. So the way we help those businesses is through corporate governance. So making sure they're complying with laws from a corporate entity perspective. Contracts are our bread and butter, so helping them draft, review, negotiate contracts, and then protecting their intellectual property. So helping them file trademarks and copyrights for those assets as well. Yeah, and I'm always happy to chat. We offer a free 15-minute discovery call with our prospective clients that if you have questions, I'm an open door, honestly. I love providing resources, connecting you to people that you may benefit knowing. And people generally the best way to reach me directly tends to be via email. So my email is my initials ns@sernalegalservices.com. Website is sernalegalservices.com, where you can schedule that free discovery call. And we are on social media too. So if you look up at Serna Legal Services, you will see our content, and we enjoy sharing some educational content there as well. And Andy's Grill is in South Holland, Illinois. It's delicious. I highly recommend. You wouldn't expect it, but the breakfast is phenomenal. So always recommend that as well.
Thanks for listening to the Dropping Gems con Muchos Colores podcast. We have a new episode every month. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review and subscribe so you don't miss a beat. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time.